Don't red screen me. Moonworld? Moonworld? Yes? Was me and Kyoko? They finally... Things at the cafe were routine as ever, yes? Kyoko washed and polished the drinking glasses her customers had helped themselves to that afternoon, yes? They were the same ones she'd been using for over a decade now. By now, there wasn't much else left from when she started working there. Nothing but the cafe itself, the stools, tables, major appliances, and the clock on the wall, essentially. That's still quite a few things. Kyoko set down a glass, took a piece of broken coffee cup out of her drawer. From that night, it had long since been reduced to a mere handle. Yet despite that, it was still laden with memories. The door opened just then. Kyoko put away the handle and looked up.
Oh.
Did you get a new shirt, bud? Ozumi twisted his hulking physique through the door frame. Wait, hold up, wait. No, she said something. She said something about, like, maybe it's time to let go or something. Has Ozumi still not owned up? After 6 years, have you not sacked up, Ozumi? Bro, I'm gonna get pissed. You really gonna fumble Kyoko? Kyoko's voice relaxed when she saw who it was. Ozumi simply grunted in acknowledgement and parked himself at the corner of the counter as per routine. Kyoko took the coffee pot she'd been keeping on a plate warmer and poured Ozumi a cup. She also set 3 sugar cubes on the saucer. Ozumi wasted no time dumping the cubes into his coffee. This, too, was as per routine. Meanwhile, Kyoko poured herself another cup made from dark roast coffee beans. Queen shit. Ozumi looked up as he mixed his sugar with a spoon. She?
ああ、心配いらねえよ。
そう、よかった。最近こっちに来ないから疲れているんじゃないかと思って。
慣れない仕事だろうからな。
Ozumi drank his coffee. Kyoko had a sip of her own blend. More better than typical, probably because it's been sitting there for a while.
危ない仕事なのだから守ってあげなきゃダメよ。
You got a female partner? Don't tell me it's Toji.
うちはそう危険な職場じゃねえぞ。
That part was certainly true. Their department, Criminal Investigation Division Section 1, focused primarily on investigating crimes. Though their field was homicides, the only real danger they ever encountered was during the apprehension of crooks. Even then, it was relatively safe, compared to other divisions anyway.
あなただって前に刺されたことあったじゃな
Did
い。
you get stabbed? Kyoko unconsciously nursed her side.
そんなのは特殊な事例だ。
Or is she talking about her own stabbing? Ozumi took another sip of coffee.
心配はいらねえよ。怪我しないだけの技量はある。あとは経験を積み重ねるだけだ。
Is it Ayumu? Unfortunately, that did little to actually reassure Kyoko. Is it Ayumu? Is she the new recruit at the station? So it's been 6 years, so she definitely could have gone through her, Okay, yes, the phone rang. Whatever, answer it. Get that ringing. Ozumi stood up before Kyoko could. Just
おそ
answer
らく
it.
俺だ。ここにいると伝えていたからな。
I can answer it.
おお、俺だ。なんだお前か。
Oh, it's just you.
ああ。どこだ。
Kyoko observed from behind as Ozumi produced his notebook while cradling the phone receiver on his shoulder.
わかった。まずは所轄と協力して現状の保存に当たってくれ。付近の捜索と、そうだな。
Another crime must have occurred. Kyoko poured coffee from the pot into a thermos with that thought. She also dumped in some granulated sugar and stirred it with a stick.
ね
Kyoko caught Ozmi's attention once he hung up.
え、これ持って行って。
お
Oh. Fortunately, it was the kind of thermos where the lid could be used as a cup if needed.
じゃあ、行ってくる。
Ozmi left his change on the counter.
気をつけて行ってらっしゃい。
On Valentine's Day, and you still can't own up. Red? Bro, I swear to God. I swear to God, because this is the same night Yukari's going home. I swear to fucking God. Someone's being strangled. Okay. I'm just trying to think. Yukari wasn't wearing a red dress or anything. She had the scarf, but clearly there's no scarf here. The cadaver fell to the ground once the cord snaking her neck was released. There. That should do it. The saw was swiftly produced, its fangs finding a new home in the corpse's arm. Relatively little strength was required to cleave through the flesh. God, I hate your sound effects. They're for good reason, they're good sound effects. They really drive home the feeling I should be feeling, but God, I hate that feeling. A grinding peeled across the air as the jagged teeth sawed through bone. The stench was putrid. Juices from within drenched the cotton gloves driving the saw. That's it for these gloves. So how many pairs will I have to go through? Eventually the arm fell to the ground with a resounding thump. Only one more. The work was more taxing than anticipated. Still, it had to be done. She needed to be transformed. The saw scraped off her remaining arm little by little. Chunks of meat flung about with each motion like wood from a wood chipper. However, there'd be no need to clean those up, and when wild animals would likely make a feast out of them. Then again, rotten flesh was bad for the stomach, so perhaps it'd be better to bury or burn them. I never knew getting rid of bodies could be this much of a chore. Late that night, the corpse was situated in the predetermined location. The whole point was for others to see it. However, witnesses couldn't be permitted at the moment. Fortunately, this place was far from any houses, so no one would notice so long as care was taken to not shine any bright lights. That was exactly why this plot of land had been chosen. An arm bone, whittled at the base, was then produced. A hole to house it had already been bored into the corpse's back. This was the most important part of the whole setup. An angel's wing. People are sure to notice the parallels to the murder 6 years ago once I put this on her back. Once they do, we can finally be free of this nightmare. What? You did that to be free of it? What? Hold up, huh? Not computing. Run that back. Took stock of the floodplain at Nogawa Chopu. Chopu! No sooner had a phone call from Ozumi at the crack of dawn to disturb my slumber than did he summon me here. Several squad cars were parked atop the bank, or rather the levee, with cops regulating all traffic in and out of the area. Nowadays, I can get into most cordoned-off crime scenes simply by giving my name. While I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel nice, it didn't mean I wanted to rejoin the police either. Most of the cops managing crime scenes these days were younger than me, and this case was no exception. I descended the bank and approached an area sectioned off with rope. Standing behind it was a familiar face. This was my first time seeing her in uniform. Ayumu?
やれやれ本当に総一に入ったとはね
Ayumu?
時坂先生
Fuck yeah, that's awesome. Ayumu Sato, now decked out in a suit, saluted me. Yes, you know what? Screenshots for Ayumu. That's dope.
いい加減先生はよしてくれよ今年から捜査一課だって
いえこの2月からです
Ayumu answered my inquiry as she stood at attention.
俺相手に堅苦しいのは抜きにしてくれ
はいご指導よろしくお願いします
She missed the point entirely, didn't she?
指導するのはあいつの役割だろ
Pointed to a man descending to the bank just then. Ozumi.
おう来たかレイジ来たけどよなぜ俺が呼ばれた仏を見りゃわかる
Ozumi stepped over the rope and joined the circle of investigators. At least a little hint would have been appreciated, man.
君は確認したのかい
こちらに来た時
Ayumu sounded disconcerted. That was only natural. Joining the force meant bearing witness to all sorts of macabre sights, like it or not. Honestly, it was commendable she'd even managed to give me a straight answer. In any case, I slipped on my gloves, climbed over the rope, and followed Ozumi over to the crime scene. Oh God. Oh, don't tell me that's his daughter. It had been 6 years since those murders. Should have been done for good with the culprit behind bars. And yet, here was a corpse, just like those from that case. I mean, not just like.
こいつが俺を呼んだ理由か。
そういうことだ。
That is a very half-assed, but that looks like a young girl. I didn't even bother to conceal my bewilderment facing that familiar pastiche of a fallen angel. Is this an extension of those serial killings? Or is it the start of something new entirely? This girl looked younger than most of the victims I was used to handling.
身元を表すものはまだ何も出ていない。
Yeah, and you won't have
今
an
はこの
ID
周辺の
because
失踪届を
she
調
was
べている
never
最中だ。
registered. Well, actually, no. She would... Technically, she would have been right, because... I mean, Fuyumi looked after her when she was a baby at the daycare, right? So at least, like, if they do, like, blood work or dental records, there should be a way to... Well, dental records on a baby isn't really something you can do, but... There should be a way to ID it? I closed my eyes, clasped my hands together, and offered a silent prayer. Okay, time to examine the crime scene and piece together what happened here. Torso?
死因は判明しているのか。
まだ不明だが、体に無数の打撲痕がある。
Osmi rolled up the victim's clothes and showed me what was beneath them.
これか。
Although it was her body littered with more bruises than I could begin to count, her abdomen was dented and the ridges of her ribcage were visible through her skin. Some bruises appeared to have been inflicted with a pole, while others made it look like she'd been kicked around.
はっきりとはしないが。
Still, must have hurt like hell to get battered like that.
骨折や内臓破裂については解剖を待たねとならんが。
ああ。
Which opened the door to the possibility that a family member was the killer.
胸くそ悪いな。
Yeah.
まったくだ。
I leaned in and examined the corpse's face. If there was any consolation, it was that her face was mostly bereft of agony. Maybe it just appeared that way because the culprit had applied makeup to her. Face powder and lipstick, to be precise. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought I was looking at an elaborate wax figure.
若いな。
ああ。さっきも言ったが、該当する行方不明者を今洗い出している。
And we're gonna find out. So, how old was the baby? It was like a year, right? Because the events of the first game took place like roughly a year before the events of the second game, and this game takes place, and at least the majority of this game took place, what, like a couple months after the events of the second game. So if anything, the baby would have been like a year and a half, 2 years old at the time. So 6 years later, 7.5 to 8 years old, which I could believe here. Still no idea then.
遺留品は。
身につけている衣服だけだ。
Yeah. Should have figured a girl her age wouldn't have a driver's license or anything so convenient like that.
調査待ちといったところか。
Fuck. There was powder applied to her neck. If I had to guess, our culprit had done that to make her look as alive as possible. Body's arms were all but completely severed.
なるほどな。
切断に使われたものはノコギリのようだ。死亡から時間が経っているようで。
Osmi stoically recited facts from her report. So it wasn't the amputation that killed her then. Yet another similarity to that case.
これが俺を呼んだ理由か。
There was a bone stuck in her back. Probably from one of her arms, if I had to wager. Glued to it was a plethora of what appeared to be genuine feathers.
6年前の事件。俺はよく知らんからな。
Back then, those serial killings, dubbed the Exile of Paradise killings, were conducted by Sei Maizono. However, she was currently serving a life sentence in prison. Thus, this couldn't have possibly been her doing.
模倣犯であることは間違いないだろうな。
当時の関係者はどうだ？
どうだろうな。
There was one girl who came to mind, but she was still out of the country.
六式はどうなんだ？
奴はあの事件そのものに関わってはいない。
Sure, it was sprinkled with his influence, but he'd been in custody for the entirety of those killings. Besides, this didn't feel like his handiwork.
話を仏に戻すぞ。 この背中に刺さった骨は被害者の前腕部だ。肩甲骨に穴を開けてはめ込まれているようだ。
やり口も異なるな。
In Seimazono's case, she willed down her victim's shoulder blades, turned them into bases using plaster, then made the wings out of thin strips of bamboo and the like.
前園聖に話を聞く必要があるかもしれんな。
There were a multitude of bruises across the corpse's bare legs.
こいつはひどいな。
左足のすねに骨折が認められる。おそらく何かで殴られたのだろうな。
Osme pointed to a conspicuous purplish bruise on her.
死亡推定時刻などは
不明だ。相当時間が経っていると思われるそうだ。
その割には腐敗が進んでいないようだな。
霊安所で死体が保管されていたと考えられる。冬だからな。屋外に放置されていてもこのくらいにはなるだろう。
それでも今まで発見されていないということはどこかに埋められていたか。
可能性がないとは言えないが、地面に埋めちまったら腐敗が進むだろう。
That or been reduced to a skeleton. In any case, the body probably hadn't been unearthed from anywhere if that was true. I scanned the ground.
発見時の状況を聞いていなかったな。
発見自体は昨日の夜だな。仕事帰りの会社員が土手の上から見つけたそうだ。
Which man had probably been put there sometime last evening after sunset.
仏は小柄だからな。車に積んであっても目立ちはしない。不審車両などは見つかっていないが。
直接の目撃者がいなければ見つけるのは難しい。
そういうことだ。
Birds. No, that seems to be it. That should do it.
よし、仏を搬出するぞ。
An investigator blanketed the body in a sheet and loaded her onto a stretcher. That's his daughter, isn't it? That's his daughter, isn't it? I am approached the two of us just then.
助手の方が来ていますよ。
Oh, are you still jealous about that? You got a job at Section 1, but you're mad that Moski's still my assistant? Or Reiji's assistant, I should say. Sure put an awful lot of emphasis on the assistant part.
ああ、まさきか。
逮捕しますか？
Shall I come?
しなくていいから呼んできてくれ。
わかりました。
I misprinted off.
あいつを呼んだのか。
ああ、何かに使えると思ったが、ちょうどよかったな。
Now, I actually had something to give him. Just then, Ayumi returned with Masuki in tow.
遅いぞお前。
うちからだとここまで電車の乗り換えが面倒なんですよ。
山を越えて川を渡った方が早いだろう。町だからなら。
無茶言わないでくださいよ。それで自分は何をすればいいんですか？
The fact that he'd asked that question so quickly stood testament to the years of experience Masuki had racked up since we first met.
魚住と一緒に府中の刑務所へ行って前園生と面会してきてくれ。
あ？なんだって俺が。
刑事のお前が行かないと面会ができないだろう。今回の件と前の事件、模倣犯だろうが心当たりがないか聞いてきてくれ。
わかりました。
今回の概要は道すがら魚住に聞け。多分無関係だろうが少し気になっている。
お前はどうするんだ？
まず被害者の身元を明らかにしたい。
私
I'm
が
sure
お
you
供
could
しま
help.
す。
わかった。佐藤巡査のおもりは任せたぞ。
分かってるよ、魚住警部殿。
God, I'm like 100% sure that's his daughter. Masuki went over to a prison in Fuchu, located not too far from the crime scene, escorted by Uozumi.
しかしだな。今さら何か新しい話が出るとも
I
思えな
highly
いが
doubt that as well. Unless that was Chie who did it to some rando trying to follow in her mentor's footsteps, but I doubt it. I'm like totally convinced that was Reiji's daughter. Because this isn't the true end, right? This isn't the happily ever after moment. Not even necessarily that the true end will be a happily ever after, but this isn't the true end, so like not necessarily whatever happens to this will be the final result. I'm thinking that's his daughter. By this point, Seimazono had already gone over nearly every detail of the crime she committed with law enforcement.
確認するだけでいいと思います。それ以上のことは本人もわからないでしょうし。
当時の調書を読む限り、 共犯者の存在もないようだからな。
絵のことだったら今回の件には関係ないと思います。
だろうな。よし、行くぞ。
Masaki followed Uozumi into the prison. Inside, the pair was taken to the prisoner visitation room. A guard was on standby at the other side of the glass pane that divided the room. Masaki took the chair in front of him at Uozumi's urging.
俺はあまり知らねえからな。お前に任せる。
わかりました。
Masaki had a pretty good grasp of what Kyozo Uozumi was like after 6 years of working together. He was a straight-arrow policeman who wore his heart on his sleeve. Though he'd asked Masaki about his past before, he'd never pressed him on the matter either. While that could be because he might have heard a thing or two about it from Reiji, Masaki still considered him a trustworthy man all the same. The door on the other side of the glass suddenly opened. It was the first time they'd met since her
お
trial.
久しぶりです。
そうね。少し老けた。
そりゃ自分もいい年ですからね。
ここにいると時間の経過が分からなくなるわ。
Sei smiled. She seemed exactly the same as when Masaki last saw her.
今日は何の用事？何かあったようだけど。
Sei glanced at
昨
Uozumi.
日少女の死体が発見された。以前君が起こした天使のような加工をされてね。
天使？
両腕が切断され、その骨が背中に突き刺さっていた。ご丁寧に羽までつけられてな。
私は関係ないわ。
分かっているさ。でも当時の状況を知らなければ犯行は起こせない。
情報の公開はしていないの。
犯人が捕まっている以上する意味がない。雑誌がいろいろ書き立てようとしたが出版は差し止められた。
事実上の検閲？
模倣犯を生まないためだ。
それでも今回こうして起こったのでしょ。
Fantastic success.
一体誰がやったのかしらね。
何か知っているような口ぶりだな。
まさか。どうやって知るというの？
まさか久保井さんが帰国しているとか。
それはない。
Uozumi immediately shot down that idea.
引き渡し条約がないだけであちらにも大使館はある。久保一への動向は逐一チェックされている。
Oh wow.
そう。それはよかった。
Back in the day, Seimazono tried to take the blame for Chie Kuboi's crime. However, Masaki still failed to understand what had driven her to such lengths.
なぜ今回の犯人は。
私にわかるはずないでしょ。
ではあなたはなぜあの事件を起こしたのですか？
To this day, that was still one of the biggest mysteries of the Exile of Paradise killings. What exactly had been Seimazono's motive? Though she'd confessed to the murders, the answer to that question was a completely different story.
私とは違う理由で装飾を行ったのでしょうね。
だからその理由をだな。
Irritation bled out of Uozumi's voice.
私の理由？それでも今回の事件の犯人の理由？今回の犯人のであれば私が推し量れることではないし。
前園さん、今回の事件はいわば前の事件の贋作です。
私は贋物を作る側の人間だもの。自分のやったことが神仏と評価されるのは心地いいものよ。
Sei's lips curled into a smile. If that had been her motive, then it was indeed unlikely that this new criminal had committed their crime with the same idea in mind. Even so, there had to be some reason why they altered that little girl's body.
人というのは案外シンプルにできていると。
難しく考える必要はない。
さあ。でも私が贋物を作る理由はシンプルよ。ただ作りたい。
That was it? That was what made her commit all those gruesome murders?
拉致が開かねえな。
Uozumi headed for the exit.
今日のところはこれで終わりだ。また話を聞くことがあるかもしれんが。
そう。それでは。
Sei rose to her feet and left the room under the guard's watchful eye. Uozumi scratched his head furiously once they were outside.
あったく何考えてるか全く分かりやしねえ。
でも無関係だというのは分かりました。最初から分かっていたことかもしれませんが。
そりゃそうだ。手口も雑だったからな。本人が関わっているとすりゃあんな風にはならんだろ
う。だとするとますます犯人の意図が読めませんね。
Was it really just a simple copycat crime at the end of the day? No.
あの事件についての情報はそう多く出回っているわけじゃねえ。当時の関係者を洗ってみる価値はある。
Uozumi opened the door to his squad car.
一旦戻るぞ。仏の身元が明らかになってるかもしれん。
わかりました。
Mm-hmm. 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 I beheld the crime scene from the bank, watching as the cops began pulling out. Gross. There weren't any nearby streetlights, so this area would probably be pitch black come nightfall. Which made it the perfect place to dispose of a body, in other words.
先生、
Ayama approached me just then.
被害者の身元が分かりました。捜索願いが出ていたそうです。が、届け出は昨年の夏でした。
そんなに前から行方不明だったのか。
Ayama handed me a copy of the document.
住所は練馬か。ここからは少し離れているな。
向かいますか？
いいのか。
I looked Ayama in the
身
eye.
元の確認は指示されていたことですから。
That wasn't what I've been getting at. And again, the sooner she experienced one of the hardest parts of being a police officer, the better it'd do her in the long run. Or so I hoped. This is part of my babysitting duties, huh? I drove Ayama to a residential district in Nerima.
ここですね。
Ayama checked the nameplate outside the house and nodded to herself. There was a white car parked outside, meaning the local precinct was already paying them a visit if I had to guess. And sure would lighten our load if they'd already given the bereaved family the bad news. I glanced at Ayame. She seemed nervous, but it was hard to tell through her stoic countenance.
さあ、行くぞ。
I gave Ayame a little pat on the shoulder.
はい。失礼します。
Ayame addressed a cop and woman who were conversing just outside the front door.
警視庁捜査一課の佐藤です。
あなたたちがしっかりしてさえいれば。
Huh? The woman's sudden shouts silenced Ayame.
どうして今になって。いなくなったのは去年の夏なんですよ。それなのに、どうして。
The officer from the precinct wrapped his arm around the woman, most likely the victim's mother, and consoled her. All Ayame could do was hang her head and ball her
申
fists.
し訳ありませんでした。
Thus, I apologized in her place. I wasn't a cop myself, but telling the woman that wouldn't have done any good.
謝られたところで、あの子は帰ってこないのよ。
You do nothing but stand there and suffer her slings and arrows. Now, she could have slugged me and I wouldn't have been allowed to say anything back to her face. However, in a way, I envied her. Life would have been much easier for me if only I were capable of grieving the ones I'd lost so openly.
中でお話ししましょ
The officer gestured the woman toward the
う。あな
door.
た方も。
いえ、大人数では迷惑になるでしょうから。
In all likelihood, this woman would probably be more comfortable with a local cop over some investigators anyway.
行こ
Gave Ayame a little
は
nudge.
い。失礼しました。
Ayame and I made our way back to the MPD.
辛い仕事ですね。
Ayame abruptly broke the silence. She kept the entirety of the car
う。
ride.
それが分かっていて、この仕事を選んだのだろう。
ええ。最初の研修でも叩き込まれましたから。
This part of the job was harder than dealing with bodies in some ways.
ああいう時は謝ることしかできない。もちろん自分に責任がない時でもな。
分かっています。すみませんでした。関係のない先生に。
そこは気にすることじゃないさ。君らと一緒に行動しているから、周りからは俺だって警察の一員に見えるだろうしな。
And besides, it wasn't like I could have just stood there and left her to suffer alone.
ま、警察官になった以上、俺もそう甘やかすつもりはないからな。学生とは違うのだから、自分で何とかしなければならないことも多くなるぞ。
はい。これからもご指導よろしくお願い。
Hold up. Isn't that supposed to be Ozmi's job? The sun had completely set by the time we returned to CID Section 1.
おお、来たか。
Ozmi raised his hand when he saw us stroll inside.
ただいま戻りました。魚住警部。
Damn, girl! Look at the suit! Look at the suit! Sheesh. Like, she looks fine in the coat. You took that. Look at that girl in the suit. God damn.
そういう堅苦しいのはいらねえよ。どうだレイジ。会社の野菜行ったんだろ。
ああ、詳しくは所轄から報告があると思う。
Plunked down on the visitor's sofa. Oski sat right across from me.
そっちはどうだった？
前園さんは無関係だと言っていました。それはまあ当然だと思いますが、
なんだ？
自分が贋物を作る理由はシンプルだと。
そいつは今回のと関係はないな。
そうですよね。すみません。
I just noticed Reiji has a different suit. Still, she claims her reasons were simple, huh? Maybe she's right. Maybe we should take a step back and try to look at the whole picture.
一旦遺体の状況は置いておこ
He's got like a blue
う。その他の
pinstripe
こと
suit
から見て
instead of his
犯
usual
人
like
像
green
を
suit.
考えてみるか。
It's nice.
犯人像異常性愛者の犯行ということも考えられますね。
I am gonna kick things off with their suggestion.
魚住、司法解剖の結果は
まだ出ていないが性暴行の痕跡はないようだった。
となると異常者の犯行とは考えにくいんでしょうかね。
いや、可能性は捨てきれない。練馬の被害者宅周辺でそういう思考がある人間がいないか調べるべきだな。
しかし遺棄現場は調布だぞ。犯人の居所をそこまで絞っていいのか。
自分の活動範囲から外れた場所に遺棄したとも考えられます。
もしくは自分の活動範囲の外からさらってきたか。
Our discussion went on and on.
でもそういう思考は表には出しませんよね。隠しているとするなら他にも何か特徴がなければ見つかりませんよ。
Yeah, that's not really something people are open about.
他の特徴か。そうだな。おそらくは内向的で社会的に立場の弱い人間だろう。
被害者の年齢を考えればそうなりますね。普段は表に出さなくとも実は暴力的な人間。
そういや、去年起こった男児の営利誘拐事件、あれはどうなってる？
俺の担当じゃねえから詳しくは分からねえ。ただ被疑者の男は別件の執行猶予中に窃盗事件を起こして取り調べ中のはずだ。
In that case, he probably wasn't our man.
所轄の担当者からの報告ですと営利誘拐の線もないようです。
I am read off said report.
変質者による犯行という可能性が高まりますね。
どう変質しているのかが重要なんだよ。異常性愛者か、猟奇殺人鬼か。
今回の場合は遺棄方法が過去の事件の模倣だから猟奇殺人に含めるのは違うような気がするがな。
そうだな。猟奇殺人と一口に言っても犯人なりの表現方法、殺し方がある。
今回が初犯かもしれませんね。この先続くかは分かりませんが。
今回も見立てって可能性はないのか。
見立て？天罰の見立てならあるかもしれんが。
いや前回の事件そのものの見立てだよ。前園聖は無関係だろうと言っていたが。
なるほどな。
That was definitely plausible. Though the wings on the back of the victims had been kept secret from the public as far as I knew, people could have learned of them through rumors and hearsay and whatnot.
結局私たちは何を調べればいいのですか？
今まで言ったことの全てだよ。まだ何も分かっちゃいないからな。差し当たっては被害者宅周辺への危機。
Emma nodded and scribbled in her notebook. Would it be wrong to say I wish my assistant could have had his head on as straight as her? Shot the nitwit a glance. I should give him a break. He's done a fine job over the years, all things considered. Though he wasn't officially my assistant anymore.
では自分は一旦失礼します。
Muskie rose to his feet. Yeah, I should take a page from his book. I had a little dinner and went home. The lights weren't on, of course. Parked in the driveway and got out. A wave of frigid air struck me like lightning the moment I exited the heated car. Oh, hey, he got a new car, too. That's not the same Volkswagen he always had.
Hmm.
I was reaching for my house key when I suddenly noticed something squatting in front of my door.
ステラ？
Stella? I'd never mistake that blonde mane. Girl, hot damn! Stella looked up at me with unfocused eyes.
レイジ。
Girl, shit. Whoa.
お前な、こんなところで寝ていたら風邪ひくぞ。
うん。
Yeah. Stella rose to her feet and dusted off her
来
coat.
るんだったら前もって連絡してくれ。俺はもう晩飯食ってきたぞ。
電話したけど出なかった。
Stella puffed out her cheeks. Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you're out all day. Sure would be nice if I had some sort of portable phone I could carry on me or something. Ah, that's crazy. That's never gonna happen. I went inside and removed my coat. Stella took it from me, put it on a hanger, and hung that on one of the door frames.
お風呂を沸かしてくる。
ああ、よろしく。
Stella headed toward the bathroom. Meanwhile, I loosened my tie and plopped down on the sofa. Exhaustion hit me like a runaway steed the moment I allowed myself to relax. I was relieved we'd ID'd the victim so quickly, though I knew it was nothing to be happy about, all things considered. Especially seeing as she was just a little girl. Couldn't help but be reminded of the other girl who'd vanished 6 years ago. Even I knew how selfish it was to worry more about her. And so much she's found a single clue pointing toward her whereabouts after all these years. Nor toward her kidnapper, now out in Kuroya.
レイジ、お茶飲む？
Stella came back at that exact moment.
ああ、頼もうかな。
Stella trotted off into the kitchen. She frequently came by my house these days. I think it all started after Yukari moved out upon graduating, leaving me to fend for myself, though I was a bit fuzzy on the details now. Much to my surprise, Stella turned out to be a pro at doing housework. Never would have guessed it from how scatterbrained she acted. But then again, maybe it was only natural, seeing as how she'd grown up helping at her mother's orphanage. As such, she came over to clean up after my sloppy ass once I turned the house into a pigsty in Yukari's absence. As a result, she began frequenting my place. Just then, Stella returned from the kitchen. Bro, come on. Look at that smile. Come on now. That's adorable. Stella, you're not supposed to brew green tea in coffee mugs. Yeah, well, as long as it's potable. Stella took a seat on the couch across from me after setting down my tea.
テレビつけてもいい？
ああ、
Oh, you got a TV now? Stella reached out and flipped the TV's power on. A second later, the news started playing on the monochrome screen. I momentarily braced myself, but they weren't talking about the murder, fortunately. Instead, the topic was a sumo tour that was starting out in Los Angeles. I sipped my tea as I watched TV. Soon they switched to discussing the ongoing preparations for the Olympics, which were being held here this fall. The roads nowadays are a lot easier to handle, in no small part due to that. But on the other hand, I also felt like the air was a lot dirtier than it used to be thanks to the rise in cars.
お風呂。
Stella got up and left the living room. However, she hadn't turned off the TV when she'd gone. Not that I really cared either way, though. Or rather, I considered it too much of a pain to get up and switch it off myself. So instead, I just stared off into space till Stella got back. Shortly thereafter, the news ended and was subsequently replaced by a music show. But even then, I just quietly sipped my tea while listening to the latest hit tunes. I was doing everything in my power not to think about the case. After all, I knew better than anyone that I needed to switch off, lest the harsh realities of detective work crush my spirits. Oh, girl! The pink kimono! Yes, yes, yes! We love to see it. Bro, I'm not gonna lie, they kind of popped off with these time skip designs. I ain't gonna lie. Like, obviously some of them are just like slightly recolored, but like Yukari's adult sprite, amazing. Ayumu's adult sprite, mwah, amazing. Stella's base fit, it's fine. I still I like the way her hair's done now. I like the hat off approach. I like how, has her hair gotten longer? Feels like it's gotten longer. I don't know, but I like, the hat off, hair flowing look to Stella. I like it. I do like the original fit better, but I like the hat off, hair down. The new fit, it's alright, it's not bad. That pink kimono, Raging his blue pinstripe suit, like I want to see like an actual full sprite of it, or maybe like a CG of it if I can, just to accurately judge if it beats out the classic green, but like, just from what I've seen with the little corner preview, doesn't look too bad. I'm saying these time skip designs are pretty solid. It was then that Stella stepped back into the room. She was borrowing some of Yukari's old pajamas.
レイジも。
なあ、
I chugged the rest of my tea and got off the couch.
布団を敷いておいてくれないか。
うん。
Of course, that girl's out cold. I could hear Stella softly snoring from the next futon over. Hey, what happened to all of Yukari's bugs? I'm curious. Meanwhile, I just stared at the ceiling, not so much as sleeping a wink. I always ended up remembering her on nights Stella came over. Strange, considering they didn't look alike in the least. We simply had a lot in common. That was all. Such as our connections with her and him. It's been 6 years since her body was found. Her? Oh wait, is that because yeah, Toko's body was found in the same, because yeah, the bulk of part 3 takes place like 2 months after part 2. So yeah. I was like, wait, which body in part 3 was like really groundbreaking? And he's like, no, it's a reference to Toko. Okay. And since her daughter had vanished, okay, don't say her, say our. All right. It's also been 6 years since he'd escaped. Fortunately, I was no closer to finding either of them after all this time. But if nothing else, I at least wanted to find her daughter before the day I died. Our. That's your daughter, Reiji. I know that has some bad implications for you, but you know, you can take responsibility. That's your daughter.
レイジ
Turned to Stella when she called my name. She was staring right at me.
どうこのこと考えていた
あ
I decided to be honest. There's no point putting on a brave face around her, and we both knew
あ
it.
今どこにいるのかとな。
レイジ
Stella reached out to me.
ステラ、
大丈夫あの子は元気
She didn't say another word. Not that she had to. I escorted Stella home and went over to the MPD after waking up.
おう、遅かったな。
Ozmi raised his hand from his desk.
司法解剖の結果が出たって。
ああ、そっちで話す。
Ozmi pointed to the reception area. Masaki was already sitting there, and accompanying him was
お前も呼ばれたのか。
Toji.
ああ、昔の事件を知っているのが少ないと言われてな。
I'm telling you, these post-time skip designs. Look at Toji in the reddish-brown suit. Look at Toji in the reddish-brown suit. Brother. That's fire. That's fire.
別件に人員が割かれていますから。
Look at my short-haired queens in their suits. That's fire. This rules. Aima chimed in from her spot next to them.
人員の補充でもしたらどうだ。
しただろ、そこに。
Ozmi pointed at Ayame as he walked over with files in hand.
されました。
わかったよ。で、死因も出たのか。
まあ、
Something appeared to have him off his game.
死因は窒息。頸部に絞められた跡があった。
二重締め直したということですか？
どうだかな。これが自殺体であれば偽装も疑えるんだが。
しかし前の事件では最初の被害者は自殺だったと結論が出ていただろう。
Her identity was a mystery to this day, though, thanks to Seimaizono's insistence on keeping mum about the matter.
最初につけられた跡を追い隠すような形で索条痕がついている。死因は最初の跡。これが何によるものか、ね、
死体を縄で絞めたとすりゃ意図は明白だな。
死因の偽装ですか？
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Perhaps it was done to disguise exactly what the first marks were.
偽装というより隠蔽だな。殺す時によほど特殊な凶器を使ったか。
They could also explain why the culprit had slathered the victim's neck in powder to enhance the deception.
特定はできていないのか。
縄ではない細いものということくらいしかわからん。
Thinner than a rope. Okay. Ozumi shook his head.
やはり自殺に偽装したということは考えられませんか？
Aima suddenly chimed in.
話してみろ。
はい、自殺に偽装したという可能性はまだ残っていると思います。殺人犯と死体を遺棄した人物が別だとは考えられませんか？
Oh.
殺人犯が自殺に偽装した死体を他の者が天使に加工した。
着眼点は悪くないが、 索状痕は水平方向だった。首吊りに見せるのであれば耳の後ろ側までの斜め方向に跡を残さなければならねえ。
Ozumi demonstrated what he meant using his own thick neck as a visual aid. Good job, man. Now we all know what to look for if we ever find a fake suicide victim.
確かに殺人と遺棄が同一犯という根拠もないな。A という犯人の殺人の痕跡を消すために B という人物が加工したというのはあり得る。
I'll show my notebook. Private detective, been looking for Makoroshi and that girl for the past 6 years. Feel like I'm taking steps to fix my self-indulgent lifestyle now that I'm living home. What did I want to click on? I forget. Yukari's friend. She's currently living in Yamanashi, helping out at her mother's nursery. Love to see it. I was gonna click on Nanako. We don't know. Okay. Because I was thinking, like, if Nanako was no longer behind bars, which I can't imagine they'd let her out so soon, but also I'm just saying, if she wasn't, she and Naori somehow link up again, and then one of them takes it a step too far, and then the other conceals it. I'm just thinking. The calm and collected backbone of the Tokusaki family who handles all the chores. Bit of an odd bird. Pursued higher education, lives out of dorm. Still no match for her. Look at her. Look at her. She's amazing. Committed suicide to take responsibility for allowing Makoroshi to escape. Has a detective brother and a vagabond sister who wanders the country. Seems she closed up shop and went on a trip. No, Natsume! No, I want to see Natsume again. Guy had the balls to find another job once I got stingy on his pay. Has a good thing going with Ozumi, but it seems they're not ready to take the next step yet. It's been 6 years. As obsessed with Miso as ever. Love it. Still as helpful as ever after all these years. Hell yeah, we love Kohara. Formerly hospitalized, yes. Adopted by Humi, currently assisting her mother and sister in Yamanashi. Hell yes. Hers hasn't changed at all. But from what I can tell, she's still at the hospital. Cool. Hope I see you again. Frequently stays at my house. True. Has 2 daughters. Hell yes. Hope he never turns up as a corpse or killer. Hell yeah. Yep, wanted for the murder, escaped overseas. Brother, director, threatened. Really short and sweet. I wasn't expecting her to actually join the police force. Okay. I like checking this thing now that it's been like 6 years so that they've been updated, right? Yeah, there's all this going on. I'm not clicking through all that. Yeah, see, Toko's funeral was January 31st of 58. And then, yeah, so the bulk of the story just takes place over 2 months. And then we jump ahead 6 years. Good lord. How's that map looking? Whoa. Okay, prison, the old gallery. The Yaginuma residence. Wow, it's just everything. Yaginuma second. Wait, station, coaches, police hospital. Nothing going on here, huh? Just really nothing going on over here. Or over here. Right, double check. The correlation chart. Oh my god. Bit messy. Okay, so Ozumi did finally confess to Kyoko. but they only go so far. Baktorokski used Yagiduba. Oh my god. Yeah, this is a mess. Good lord. Ugh. 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 That chart is a mess to read. If so, that would give Culper B a completely different motive than say Maizono. And that their objective was to conceal Culper A's crime rather than remodel the corpse, of course.
ですが、今までのことは一人でもできることですよね。
そこまでして隠したかった凶器とは何だ。
Well, if it's Naori, it could be a weapon that hints to his location.
それはわかりません。ですが、それが何であるか分かれば、すぐに犯人へたどり着けるものじゃないでしょうか。
そういう手がかりになりやすいものを凶器に使ったとすれば、犯行は衝動的なものかもしれない。
Right.
やっとこか監視でも使ったってのは。
使っていたとしたら司法解剖で判明はするか。
平たいものだったり滑り止めがついていれば肌に残った後でわかるだろうな。
単純に最初に締めた時に残った指紋を消す。
手による圧迫痕は残るかもしれないが、さすがに人の肌に触れた指紋は検出できないだろう。
元の皮脂と後から付着した皮脂を見分ける方法はあるそうだが。
So it's not impossible, huh?
ともあれ、今回の件ではもし指紋があったとしても検出するのは不可能だ。
Rosemi summed up our debate as such.
犯人の手がかりになりそうなものは他にないのか。
現場付近や被害者宅周辺の聞き込みからも出てきていない。しばらくは警らの強化に努めるしかないだろうな。
連続殺人に発展する可能性があるんですか？
可能性だけならばいくらでもあるさ。重要なのは次の被害者を出させずに犯人の身柄を確保することだ。
その通りですね。勉強になります。
さらに言うと、今回の被害者が行方不明になったのは半年ほど前だ。すでに次の犠牲者がさらわれている可能性もある。
そこでお前らに頼みたいことがある。
Uh-oh. Rosemi suddenly dumped a shitload of papers on the table.
ここ1年で警視庁に提出された捜索願いだ。一応今回の被害者と年齢が近いものだけだが3000はある。
マジかよ。
対象に近い年齢の捜索願いだけでしたら年に1万件はあります。
これはその所在不明の3分の1って。
You'd have better luck slaying the Lernian Hydra than getting through all of those.
範囲はサンタナ方面に絞られるだろう。世田谷、練馬、杉並、立川かそこらまでにすりゃ1000件くらいになるんじゃねえか。
簡単に言ってくれるぜ。たく。
I mean, come on. The three of us are seriously supposed to do that on our own?
どう当たりをつけていけばいい？
そうだな。まずは性別、年齢だな。あとは居住地域。今回の練馬から調布までの間、杉並、武蔵野、三鷹の不明者を洗い出してくれ。
わかりました。
I drew reports from the stack and scanned them one after another. Okay, this one's from Sumida. This one's from Taito.
しかし本当に多いですね。
これでも減った方だ。戦後すぐは届けが出ていないものも含めれば10万人は軽く超えていたはずだぞ。
もちろん全員が犯罪被害者になるわけじゃない。単なる家出で繁華街などで働いていたりもするからな。手を動かせよ。
やってますよ。でも非行に走ることも多いんですよね。
そうしなければ生きていけない場合もある。自発的な失踪と思われるものも省いていい。
そうだな。年齢から考えても誘拐であることは確実だろう。
そういえば去年の吉信ちゃんでしたっけ？
それとは別件だ。性別も違うし、何よりこちらのは営利誘拐ではない。
それもそうですね。
three of us continued our work in silence. Over time, we narrowed it down to cases that seemed even the slightest bit suspect, only to find there were a lot more of those than we'd expected. Looks like we might need to come up with some extra criteria. This is gonna eat up my whole day, isn't it? Wonderful. Just wonderful.